Let's not be hasty. Let us not. He became aware the smile was still on his face, and he couldn't turn it off. The world seemed to be going slightly yellow around the edges, but at the same time he felt a sense of tremendous well-being. It's fine, it's fine. We shouldn't do anything to upset the balance now, should we? What if this course of action brings about the thing that is wished to prevent? The words sounded strange to him, though he wasn't quite sure where the problem lay. Strange to Lante, too, because she was frowning at him. He was suddenly very aware of the space and distance around them and between them, as though it was huge, as though he was huge. He laughed, feeling vertigo spike momentarily, and then simmer down. Something must be wrong, because Lante was looking at him with more concern, not less. He laughed again, trying for reassuring. She wasn't reassured, patently, but he couldn't rein in the smile, despite the ache in his face. Gav? Lante had a syringe in her hands, the first of her remedies to attack the insisted parasite in his brain. That would be a good thing, surely. In the long run. Lortis found himself unsure. He was fine now, obviously. He had seen Lante's projections. There was a small but real danger of damage to his brain, either from the chemical cocktail or his own system's overreaction to it. The chance that it would actually affect the organism was far greater, but still short of 25%. Lante was going carefully. Good, surely. And yet it seemed too much of a risk. He was averse to it. They should not risk the tenuous stability they had built within him. He looked into Lante's eyes. You see, he told her, you see, I feel fine. Good, okay? I don't want any of this. Just leave us as I am. It's all good, Elma. I'm even better than I was. Recovered, out of convalescence. Look. And he did a little skip and hop for her to show just how much he was in control of his motor skills. But it's more than that. See, I feel space. So much space. We didn't understand how vast it all was. Look how far out we came, Elma. Distances we never even conceived of. Contact with such an alien environment. You can't just wipe that away with medicine. We're seeing such things here. The smile was wider now, painful, hard to talk around, and yet the words kept coming. Such structure and complexity we never imagined, all these imaginary places. He began adding and taking away from Lante's treatment plans on the shared virtual display, enjoying the smooth way elements just disappeared, vanished back to the make-believe. Don't try to take this away from us. Now we finally understand how it all works. His voice trembled with sincerity, or with something. We understand so much, Elma. It's incredible, unbelievable, barely comprehensible, and yet we managed. And now we see everything. All these spaces, playgrounds, modes of being, and beyond them all there's you and Yusuf and Calvin, and beyond them there are more and more spaces. And there's no end to it. And we can fill all of them, and be all of them, such. Lante twitched. He saw the syringe jab forward, seeking contact with his skin. He flowed away from her, feeling the delight of pain in his joints as he made them do unfamiliar things, trying to find a more efficient mode of movement than this rough stilting. Let us not be interfered with by this, he said, and tried to delete the treatment plan on the system, but she'd locked the file now. And yet she was keeping her distance from him, and he could feel a curious hunger, or perhaps a sickness, his mouth flooding with it. He eased back until he felt the medical cabinets behind him, sending a brief command via his implants, so that an empty syringe fell into his own hand. Lante was talking, the tone of her voice soothing, but an edge of alarm growing behind it no matter how she tried. She was coming closer, one hand up in a calming gesture, the other still proffering the syringe. Her actual words seemed to be breaking up in the air, and Lortis understood this was because he was concentrating so very hard on configuring his own syringe. He kept nodding, though, and that seemed to be enough to keep a distance between them. He had set the syringe to extract a sample, and lifted it to face level to show Lante what he'd done. He felt obscurely proud, as though to do it, he'd navigated a vastly complicated logical maze. Look, he told her, and inserted the needle into his right tear duct. In and in and in. There was a lot of pain, but it seemed like a second-hand sensation now, barely worth bothering with. The needle extended to the length the vessel had calculated, and for a moment it just bobbed its head as they fought for a suddenly fragile control over their body. Then all was well, and they withdrew the syringe, which now contained some small quantity of us, and was reconfiguring itself to inject. There was an expression on Lante's face, but they had to work hard to identify it because the vessel had not had to process horror recently.